Good afternoon. Peter Thomas here with National Association for the Advancement of Orthotics and Prosthetics. I'm the General Counsel. And I wanted to talk today about audits and appeals under the Medicare program. This is an issue that has been red hot for 2.5 years in the O&P field, largely because of the change in documentation requirements related to physician documentation of O&P claims. But it really is impacting this problem of excessive auditing and appeals is really impacting all providers under the Medicare program to such an extent that Congress is clearly hearing from across the country how much of a problem this has become. The problem of excessive auditing by recovery audit contractors, MACs, ZPICs, PSCs, you name it. It's an alphabet soup of Medicare contractors. It culminated on December 24th when the Chief Judge of the Office of Medicare Hearings and Appeals, OMHA, published publicly a memorandum stating that due to the backlog of cases in the ALJ system, there would be a 2-year suspension of any new assignments of ALJ cases to ALJ judges. This is a major development and not a positive one. Right now, the OMHA receives about 15,000 new appeals per week. They have a backlog of 460,000 cases, and there's only 65 administrative law judges across the country to hear all those cases. So this essentially means that an overturned claim that is ultimately by the provider has to be paid back after the reconsideration phase, the QIC level of review. Providers will be waiting 2, 3, 4 years for administrative law judges to hear those cases. And in many instances, our experience has been that ALJs ultimately decide these cases in favor of providers, in favor of orthotists and prosthetists who are able to demonstrate the medical necessity and the documentation required to demonstrate payment and valid payment of those claims. And so this is a very serious issue. Congress is getting the message. There were some RAC-related improvements and directives to HHS in the most recently passed omnibus spending bill. And the Office of Inspector General was instructed to provide CMS with the top 25 recommendations that they have to streamline and improve the RAC and auditing programs. But ultimately, Congress continues to hear from constituents back home. And we encourage you to join that chorus in putting pressure on CMS to make serious improvements to the process so that legitimate providers, legitimate orthotists and prosthetists can continue to provide high-quality care to Medicare beneficiaries without putting their businesses at risk. There's one more thing that I need to mention, and that is the fact that the O&P Alliance organizations, including NAAOP, of course, have been working very diligently on a piece of legislation that would do a number of things with respect to orthotics and prosthetics involving audits. The first thing it would do is separate O&P from DME in the regulations and write specific O&P related standards. The second thing it would do would stay recoupment through the reconsideration process and until a decision has been made by an administrative law judge. If providers could keep the amount of reimbursement they receive from Medicare until the ALJ makes their decision in the case, that would be a tremendous safety valve and a relief to much of the cash flow problems, many of the issues that have really put great pressure on O&P providers across the system and across the country. And not just O&P providers, frankly, all Medicare providers. And third, the bill would seek to delay or suspend any new audits until Medicare complies with its own regulations, which require it, by the way, to make a decision in an ALJ forum within 90 days from an ALJ hearing being requested. They are way off that 90-day mark, and they know it. And in fact, there'll be a public opportunity to weigh in on February 12th when the Office of Medicare Hearings and Appeals will hold a meeting and teleconference. And that teleconference can be accessed in a listen-only mode by going to the OMHA website. It's hhs.gov/OMHA, and you can register for that meeting by conference call. Again, it's listen only, but NAAOP will be represented, the O&P Alliance will be represented at this in-person meeting, at the in-person component of that meeting, and will be making statements representing the O&P field. Thank you so much for listening.